All right. Are we recording and everything? Yes, we
Yes,
are.
we are.
It's still the 10th of March. Time now is 8:30 p.m.
It just seems like days. Earlier today, you were talking about meeting mother's parents and what they were like. I was wondering, did your father ever meet her father?
No, he died when he was 51, and they were already in their 60s when they moved to Memphis.
Okay.
So, no way.
He wasn't dead very long though, was he? A year or two?
He died about 39. I guess she did come to Memphis about the same time that my father died. But I'm sure she didn't know him. Oh boy.
Well, what about the first time that you met mother?
I don't even remember. I guess they walked from their house up our street to Mass each whenever they went, mostly on Sundays. But that was, I saw her that way, I guess. And finally clustered around and wore down her resistance. And then we were married, as I explained, at St. Anthony's Church in Florence, South Carolina. During the war, and just after I was commissioned.
And that's when she went to D.C.?
Well, I went to, I was already at Shaw Field at Florence, and from there we went to Mount Clemens, Michigan, just north of Detroit. One Sunday we were flying practice mission, and Sam Crane was flying co-pilot. I was flying captain or pilot, first pilot. That's what we called him, not captain. Too many other captains around. And we decided we'd see how high the C-47 would go. So we got it up to 17,000 feet with no oxygen. And Sam went to sleep. And but that time I realized I better get it down. I think he was just tired, though. I don't think he was anoxious.
Well, that's good. How many times did you propose to mother before she accepted?
Not more than 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the first time?
Oh, I don't remember.
You were already in the service at the time?
Yeah, I think when we agreed to get married, it was when she came down to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina from Washington. And I met her there, and we chatted. I remembered I was so conscious of the proprieties that in the hotel room that we had gotten for her. I left the door open while we sat in there and chatted. And that weekend or whatever it was, that's when we agreed to get married, the next weekend or shortly after that, which turned out to be the 22nd of July.
That was a pretty short engagement then? Or you had already
Well,
agreed to get married sometime, but just set the date then?
I can't be sure how it happened. She was probably as confused as I was, but it seemed like the thing to do was to get married. And we did.
So you know each other about 3 years.
At least, maybe a little longer. Yeah, she was quite a lady. Young lady. Well,
You also mentioned earlier about if you weren't a pilot, you might have been a teacher. And one of the things I remember growing up was the nature walks and the bird hikes
Oh,
that we took. I always enjoyed that too.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I'm glad you did. I enjoyed them and the company of you children with me. And Mother went a few times, but she wasn't much for getting off the trail,
No.
if I remember. We used to do some nature walks out in the Swope Park, where that train engine is.
Yeah.
Remember the swaying bridge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember one time being on it, and some people at the other end started swinging it, and we got off because I wasn't sure it would hold up.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's still out there though,
Yep,
rotting
kind of
away in
like
the
Gallup
woods.
and Gertie out in Tacoma.
Yeah. I'm not sure that there isn't, it's not closed off though.
It might be, I think that is an isolated area and unsafe in these days. You want a chronology of where we lived in Kansas City?
Oh yeah.
What?
Yes, I want a chronology. I would like a chronology of where we lived
Well, we
in Kansas
came
City.
to Kansas City just a couple of days before I was due to report by to TWA. And we took a room at the Aladdin Motel, which was next to the Mulebach. I think they tore it down, didn't they?
I think they
If you
have.
bla-
Or is that what the Radisson is now?
No, no, they blew down part of the Mulebach, I guess.
Right.
My voice is not gonna keep it up.
You need some water?
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. That's all right. I'll go get some water for you.
Thank you. Next time I'll remember to get it ahead of time.
I might use a little too, please. And I remember you saying you stayed in the.
I think he turned them off.
No, actually, he didn't. We're still taping. But I remember you pointing out that you stayed in the penthouse in the Ponce de Leon at
Yeah,
45th and Main.
a friend of mine rented that, and he was a bachelor pilot. And I don't remember if I flat asked him or whether he volunteered it. But whatever, I did end up staying with him.
Thank you.
I'll tell you how that came about. I moved the chronology back to a little earlier time. We stayed a couple of days at the Aladdin, and then an acquaintance of ours that we met, I think down at Drew Field, had some friends that had an apartment that was gibt.
Yeah, sorry. Noise is off.
Oh, the Aladdin, and the place that they had for rent was at 4520 Main, across from the Ponce de Leon, and a little bit north, up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Their name was Glano, Glano, and they were an older Italian couple, and apparently were glad to have us for tenants. And we had saved up some money, each of us, while I was in the service, and we had enough money to buy a house. So we bought the duplex at 4316 Holly, just off of Westport Road.
Yeah,
And
down the street from Guardian Angels.
yeah, that's where we went to Mass, and I think somebody got baptized there. Maybe you. You? Oh, that's right, yeah.
Who?
Maybe Bill too?
Profile, you,
Me.
That would be.
Me. I got
Mary Ellen.
baptized in
Oh,
her.
Mary Ellen.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I wasn't sure because I couldn't see her.
yeah,
Oh.
Mary Ellen was buried,
Not
Chris-
so fast.
christened. We'll have to wipe that out.
That's
We can't leave something like that in the thing.
His name's Mary Ellen's
Did I give you enough time to do, space to do that?
yeah.
To, I don't mean erase it now, I mean,
Yeah.
when you get to editing. I'm sorry, not
Late
funny.
night sessions are
It's
good.
funny. Oh, it is funny. It's funny.
But anyway, that church has a beautiful old carved wooden altar in dark hues. And as a matter of fact, I think that's one of the few churches where they didn't throw away the old altars. However, the next step, they had an idea that, well, they started up International, and a Czech pilot who, well, he was chief pilot at the time, Fred Richardson, said that I was assigned to Cairo, which I didn't much care for, but it looked like I had to go anyway. So we, quick like a bunny, sold our duplex, and Mother made arrangements to go up to Washington, depending on where her mother already lived, in Georgetown.
Okay, now you say Cairo, you're talking about Cairo, Egypt,
Yeah,
not Cairo, Illinois.
no,
Okay.
no. We had very few airline domiciles in Cairo, Illinois.
Just wanted to double check that.
Almost
I
none.
was pretty sure we were talking Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's a good thing to make that clear.
They assigned you there because you
So,
served in North Africa or what?
Mother went to Washington with Mary Ellen, and they lived at 3039 Q Street Northwest in Washington, near the zoo and Dumbarton Oaks and Tudor House, which is in that yellow book under the
Yeah.
thing. As a matter of fact, her great aunt Ella's house is also in that book. 3021 Q Street Northwest, I think. And I don't remember how, but I became well acquainted enough with Dave Selby that he invited me to stay with him for a while in the Ponce de Leon. So I did. And the bachelor life isn't really for me since I was married, but
You made the best of it.
yeah, I made the best of it. Yeah. And from there, we got a small apartment at 3421 Walnut, back on Walnut.
Ah,
I think we moved from there before you were born, though. But the next stop after 3421 was 710 East 72nd, where we did live for about 4 years. Your mother came, well, no,
Longer.
she came back when we were in the apartment on Walnut. And there was a Mrs. Roberts there, a lady about 80 years old who had a daughter who was a PhD, and I had a good job in either social services or the school system in Kansas City. Blank again.
Mrs. Roberts.
What?
Mrs. Roberts.
Oh, Miss Roberts, yeah. She taught Mary Ellen to read, or helped her mother teach her to read, and used to read to her all the time. She had the apartment just across the hall from us. Her name was Olive Roberts, and I think her daughter's name was Pat. Both of them were nice people. And there was a Mrs. Lewis that lived in front of us in the same building, but in the apartment in front of us toward the street. And she worked at the Board of Trade and kept up the sales and whatever on a chalkboard. But this was before computers and everything. They barely had typewriters at this time. Let's see, I guess, I said we moved out to 710 East 72nd, and that's where we spent the most time until we moved here.
Well, what happened to Cairo?
Oh, it turned out that it was a different Fisher. There were three Fishers, no, four. Four Fishers on the seniority list, all about my seniority. And one of them they assigned to Cairo, and he didn't want to go, so he quit. He went to work for Braniff, which of course later went broke.
Yeah, so what happened in this case? You went and told the guy that this was the wrong Fisher and it was spelled with a C, and he didn't believe you, so he was going to make you go to Cairo anyway?
No,
Mother told you to go down there?
somehow he got straightened out on it, and he apologized profusely, but that didn't keep us from being apart for around almost 6 months, I guess. I went up there several times. Naturally, in that time I would.
Or did you, yeah.
She had good friends up in Washington. Nancy Severe Madden, who wrote that book on the Severe family, was one of them. She just lived a few blocks from where your mother and her mother lived. This is really disjointed. We were covering part of the Washington story this morning.
No, that's okay. No, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories is the fight I had with Scotty. What was his name?
Enick?
Yeah,
Enick?
maybe.
Is he one of the Pennicks? I don't know.
I don't know either. I only know that this guy was the promoter over here. I was 3 years old, or 4 years old, I guess, and Scotty was 3, and I got beat up. That's the last time I ever got in a fist fight.
Well, Charles came back with you from Loose Park one time and said he was afraid to go with you down there because you kept trying to pick fights.
No, I just refused to be intimidated.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm surprised you really didn't get in another fight in the time that we lived there. You remember much about the theater in the park?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anne had the lead in something, didn't she?
I don't think so.
Not the lead.
She, I don't know that any of us ever had a lead in theater in the park. But I did 1, 2, 3 shows I could think of out there.
The one
Could
that
be more.
Presley made into a movie. What was it?
Grease.
Not Grease, but it was before that.
Talking about Bye Bye Birdie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. That was about Elvis, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, obliquely,
An Elvis character.
right,
Yeah.
fictionalized.
That was a place where they set up a good stage down there with sound equipment and everything. And then people from the neighborhood or the whole city brought lawn chairs or blankets or something and sat there and watched the performance and fought off the mosquitoes and the chiggers to some extent.
Yeah,
A tradition that continues in Kansas City with other productions in the parks, right?
right.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, other places are doing it now.
Yeah,
Pin Valley Park, I think, has that particular thing.
that one down by the gallery had Shakespeare this
That's the Shakespeare.
last 2 years.
Right. Actually, that's 3 or 4 years that's been going on.
Is that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about your childhood. What do you remember about your child? What's your earliest memory?
Well, I'm told that when I was about 3 years old, my mother took me to St. Peter's Church, Sunday Mass. And I got up in the middle of the ceremony and I said, "Mama, did all these people come to see your little Billy boy?"
Oh, Lord.
And that caused quite a furor, I guess.
Aren't you the one who stood up in the middle of Mass and said, pointed at the priest and said, "Mama, why is that man still wearing his pajamas?"
Nightgown.
Nightgown, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a long time ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
Did
here.
you say that?
That's the
You
important
did,
thing.
yeah.
yes.
Oh, those 3 pictures were given to us by Dr. Ogilvy and his wife when they moved out of their big home over Reinhardt,
Oh.
north of Reinhardt.
The one
Their
over the couch
Aquatemp process.
and the 2 behind the lamps.
Yeah.
Let's have a
Those are-
shot of those things behind the lamps.
Somebody said that. Mary Ellen, you told me what that angel was.
Oh,
Oh,
it's, that's
the-
Ingrid,
Ingrid Angel, yeah.
yes. Because it has a clarinet.
Oh,
Yeah, put
can't
put
see
it
that
on
from
the,
this angle.
It's black.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I painted them black,
The
why
clarinet.
don't you
yeah. I did several.
say it loud enough the cameras will pick it up?
Oh, it does. It's picked
It
it up.
does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it picks up everything in this room.
Watch our language then, huh?
I guess.
Yeah.
So, that cast iron sand wagon, horse-drawn sand wagon that we have upstairs,
Yeah.
do you remember when you got that?
No, I don't. It was after we came here though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't mean necessarily this house, but after we came to Kansas City.
Oh, I was under the impression that you got that when you were a child. It was yours.
I don't think so.
actually. You know?
No.
Did you have anything like that?
No, but Bill has a road grader and a dump truck upstairs that he never picked up to give to Tim.
And you know, you gave each of us, each of the boys, those big trucks for several years in
Yeah.
Christmas. So Charles and I each have some up there too. Our kids never got to play with. Sorry, Stephen. But no, they're great collector's items now too. Probably
Yeah.
worth a lot.
Yeah, they are.
So
Yeah, I think that road grader's worth about $70-80 at least, maybe more.
maybe more. Maybe we should check with the Toy and Miniature Museum.
What?
Maybe we should check with the Toy and Miniature Museum.
Yeah, could do that.
Of course, you know, that's probably for another tape.
Yeah. Where are we?
What did you
Well-
want to say, Charles?
Well, we're jumping around here, but I've always wondered why you went to work for TWA instead of another airline.
Well, one reason I didn't go to work for Pan American is because I didn't have 2 years of college, so they wouldn't hire me.
Oh,
And I think Eastern got kind of touchy about that too. But as it turned out, the other two went broke before the one I picked.
yeah, that's true.
Of course, they wouldn't have if they had hired you as a pilot.
Well, that might have saved them, you never know.
2 months captain's salary. What about growing up in Memphis? What was it like? What do you remember about it? I mean,
I can
You want-
remember the black vegetable and berry hawkers singing a chant that they were coming, so you'd have time enough to get out to the street before they were gone. They walked with flats like the berry or grape flats on their shoulders and a sampling of what they had for sale that particular day. They sold strawberries and especially blackberries because they grew in great profusion across the Mississippi from Memphis and the bottomlands. I went over there once with Eddie Mays, Mary Mays' son. They live fairly close to the bridge, and we walked across it there. There were pedestrian walkways there. And then, I don't know what it was, steps or a ramp or what, but we walked down to the bottom area and walked over to blackberries, and we brought home about 2 or 3 quarts, I guess, free. And we also brought home the worst case of chiggers I ever had in my life. They were really terrible. Took about almost a week to get over it too, I guess.
Now, Mary Mays was your godmother?
Excuse me?
Was Mary Mays your godmother?
Yes, she was. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'd forgotten.
And how did she know your family?
She and my parents and her husband met somehow between the wars. She was a native of Ireland and had a brogue till the day she died.
Hmm,
She was a lot of fun, wasn't she?
yeah.
Do you remember her really?
Barely.
Yeah.
She overlaps a little bit in my mind with Mary Baldock, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mary came along many years later,
Right.
20 even.
Now, didn't Mary Mays save you from drowning once?
Yeah, we took a summer vacation up to Hardy, Arkansas, and the Spring River flowed over some rocks there. And I couldn't swim, but I figured I could walk on the rocks because they weren't very deep in the water. And it was kind of a rapids, but not really a bad one. And all of a sudden I'm on moss and I'm going downstream toward the deeper water. And Mary used to like to imitate the way I said, "Mary, save me." It was a wail, I guess. At least the way she said it.
How old were you?
Before Scouts, about 10 years old, I guess, or maybe a little younger. That same trip, Eddie fell off one of the porches of one of the cabins, her son, and split his wrist. And I'm not sure whether he got an artery or not, because at that time I didn't know enough about first aid to know whether it was spurting or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it was bleeding like a devil, and they patched him up, and I guess we completed the vacation, but